Billy Bob here. It's Monday. It's Monday morning, Quarterback Monday, college edition. And you probably notice things look a little different behind me. They look a little reversed, right? Well, because yesterday we had to change rooms. That is another video. That's another story for another time. And I will tell it, but not tonight. So here we go. It's that week. If you're a Buckeye fan, if you're a Bluehead fan, it's that week. It's the week, the game. 100 and I don't know how many, 115, 120 years now. Somewhere in there. I didn't look it up. I will by the end of the week. But more to come on that, right? So we're going to talk about this past Saturday in college football. And as always, we'll start with the Buckeyes. And then we'll move on. It's going to be kind of an abbreviated version tonight. By the way, make sure you can catch my videos on Facebook, group page, Billy Bob's Backyard Barbecue, Billy Bob's Backyard Podcast, YouTube, Billy Bob's Backyard Podcast, X, TikTok, Instagram. They're all there. You know, some people like one medium and some like another. So that's what we got for your dining and dancing pleasure. All right. So let's talk Buckeyes. Rutgers. I'm not going to dwell on this for a long time. We know the receivers, Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith were out. By the way, Quincy Porter, true freshman who's had some flashes here of late, he was out. Brandon Innes got nicked up during the game. Max Clare had a big game, 7 catches, I believe 105 yards. Bo Jackson had a big game, 19 carries, 110 yards. Julian Sayin, was 13 out of 19, percentage-wise good, 157 yards, 2 TDs, no picks. So they did what they needed to do. They won 42-9. There wasn't a letdown. Interestingly enough, they only had 6 third down opportunities. Now they converted on 3 of them, but only 6. So what does that tell you? That they were getting first downs before it was third down. I mean, that's what it tells me. I don't know what it tells you. Now, Rutgers, 5 of 14. I'm not going to go all down the stats. Buckeyes had 430 total yards. Rutgers had 147. Again, the Buckeyes held a team under 200 yards total offense. Are they a great team? Rutgers, no. They were 5-5. The 5 games they won were very mediocre, against very mediocre teams. But we don't, as I said the other day, you don't pick who you play in conference, okay? You pick the out of conference. You don't pick who you play in conference. So this year we played the Scarlet Knights and we beat them for the 11th straight time since they joined the Big Ten. One of the things that I've heard, and I agree with to an extent, is that the Buckeye running game has gotten much better over the last 4 or 5 games, right? So they had 254 yards rushing. C.J. Donaldson ran a couple plays, so he's back from being injured. Isaiah West, James Peoples had another nice game. Bo Jackson, obviously, I said, had 110 yards. But what I want to point out, and maybe they're getting their blocking schemes better, maybe the running game a little different, not just scheme, but the play calling. But the last 4 opponents, so the Buckeyes have averaged 220 yards per game over the last 4 games. But here's what I got. The last 4 teams were Penn State, Purdue, UCLA, and Rutgers. And let me run this down. Penn State, 63rd in the nation rushing defense. So I'm not going to say rushing defense every time. If you can't figure it out, I'm talking rushing defense, okay? Figure it out. rushing defense. Penn State, 63rd nationally, 10th in the Big Ten. Purdue, 92nd nationally, 14th in the Big Ten. UCLA, 125th nationally, 17th in the Big Ten. Rutgers, 129th nationally, 18th in the Big Ten. By the way, there's 18 teams in the Big Ten. There's 132 or 136 teams in Division I football. You can do the math. My point of it is they're getting some momentum. They're learning. They're winning. And hopefully that builds. But they're not winning against top teams. Okay? Penn State's the highest ranked team, 63rd in the country against the Rush. Oh, I said Rush. So that's that. We're moving on. It's the week that all the M's are crossed out. We'll talk more about it as we go throughout the week. I don't know that I'm doing a Saturday morning show. There's a lot of shows. The OHIO podcast boys are going to be live from Bucyrus or Bucyrus. Some of us call it Bucyrus. Right off of Route 30 up there in Ohio. And I forgot the name of the bar. Maybe we'll try it. I don't think we'll simulcast them in, only because I'll tell you what, live shows out in a venue are very time consuming, and you have to be very focused. There's a lot of people pulling and tugging, and so you have to really stay focused. America, stay focused podcast, OHIO podcast boys. So here, let's go on here. Here's some games. One of the games I thought I'd highlight as I look, and we'll just go down the list, but the one game I thought I'd highlight is the Miami Hurricanes versus Virginia Tech. Canes took care of them pretty well, 34-17. However, the second half was tied. But what I wanted to point out more so is the game was statistic-wise, was pretty even. First downs, Canes 22, the Hokies 20. Now, Canes definitely on third down, 7 of 13, and the Hokies 3 of 12. But yardage-wise, the Canes gained 418 yards and Virginia Tech 395. So, pretty close there. Canes had a bigger advantage time of possession. I just thought I'd point it out that maybe the purpose of pointing it out is that the Canes defense, which is supposed to be really good, gave up a lot of yards. Now, were those yards late in the game? I don't know. Were they against the scrubs? But we know how a lot of coaches are not real happy when you give up a lot of points to the scrubs. So let's see here. Let's run down some of the top 25. I told you this on Saturday. You're going to see, Texas A&M, big game. They won big, 48-0. Wow. Who'd they play? The mighty Samford. Say what? Georgia beats Charlotte, North Carolina, UNCC, University of North Carolina, Charlotte, 35-3. Huh? Oregon, that was an impressive win over USC. Now USC kind of comes and goes, and Saturday they went. Notre Dame, very impressive over Syracuse. Now Syracuse is a 3-8 team, but 70-7. I guess Marcus Freeman thought it was time to pour it on. He needed those style points to ensure that if they keep going, they make it in the playoff. Bama, come on, man. Eastern Illinois, 56-0. Cincinnati, as Mrs. Billy Bob said, they still need to learn how to win. They actually had it was 10-7 at the half, and they lose 26-14 to BYU. BYU stays at 10-1. I told you about Miami. Pitt, they beat up on Georgia Tech. Now that was a surprise, right? Georgia Tech was high and mighty. They were 9-1, and Pitt had just taken a beating to Notre Dame the week before. But, hey, Pitt came back in Atlanta at Bobby Dodd Stadium, and they beat them up in the first quarter. The second half was tied. They beat them up in the first quarter, 28-14, doubled them up. Texas goes to, gets Arkansas at home, 52-37. They outscore the Razorbacks 28-17 second half, and the blue, who will be playing, the Buckeyes will be playing in Ann Arbor this Saturday. By the way, the weather right now, I mean, it's constantly changing, but the weather right now calls for snow. So we've seen some of them snow games before, and I don't know how that'll go. But the blue beats Maryland, a weak-ass Maryland team, but they beat them on the road at Maryland, 45-20. They outscored them 24-10 in the second half. And that, quite honestly, it wasn't that close because Maryland scored with about 5 minutes to go in the game. Tennessee just puts another nail in Florida's coffin this year. They're going to have a new coach next year. But Tennessee stays relevant, but they're not relevant enough to be in the playoff. Wisconsin, big win. I mean, Wisconsin's slowly getting a little bit of momentum here or there. 27-10 over the 21st ranked Illinois, the Fighting Illini, and Illinois now, they're bowl eligible, but I'm sure they're disappointed, what they thought was going to be a big time season, maybe even playoff bound, but they're 7-4. Luke Altmaier, veteran quarterback. A lot of veteran quarterbacks this year didn't show up to with their expectation and their potential. So let's see. That's really the top 25. I thought I'd just take a look at some of the standings here and how we're going. The American Conference, which is a group of 5, but you got North Texas at 6-1, Tulane at 6-1, Navy at 6-1. So it's going to come down to the last week of the season to see who goes to that conference champion. The Atlantic Coast Conference, you got Virginia at 6-1, Pitt at 6-1, and Pitt's not going to play a conference game this coming week. This is, it's rivalry week, so they're playing the Georgia Bulldogs. SMU 6-1, and then Georgia Tech, Miami 6-2, 5-2. Looks like, quite honestly, Georgia Tech and Miami are going to be left out of the ACC championship game. That could hurt their chances for being playoff bound because they're going to have to go in as at-large teams. They won't go in as conference champs. And then the Big 12, Texas Tech Red Raiders, they're 7-1. BYU, after beating Cincinnati, they're 7-1. If they both win out, they're going to play in the Big 12 championship game. You do have some teams right behind in case they stumble. The Utah Utes are 6-2. Utes. And Arizona State, they're 6-2. After that, you got 3 lost teams, so I'd say they're out. Big 10, we know you got Indiana and Ohio State undefeated right behind them. So, if either one of them stumble, and I don't think Indiana has a game that they're going to stumble. I think that they're actually might be playing Purdue. But, they're at 8-0. Oregon, the Wolverines, 7-1. And then behind that are the Trojans, USC. And let's see, we kind of forgot about the Southeast Conference, didn't we? Oh, darn. Texas A&M, the Aggies, 7-0. Now, they got a game this week against Texas. I don't know I'm not sure where that game is, if it's in College Station or in Austin. We'll figure it out later in the week. Then you got the Georgia Bulldogs at 7-1, Ole Miss at 6-1, Alabama at 6-1, and then Texas 5-2. So, is it what's the word? Possible that Texas gets into the SEC championship, or Oklahoma's 5-2, or Vanderbilt's 5-2? It's possible. Is it probable? It's very unlikely, but it is possible. So, let's see. There's a couple things in the Big Ten I thought just touch on. Northwestern actually has got a pretty decent season. They're 6-5. They're bowl eligible. I don't know who their last game, but they beat Minnesota. And for PJ Fleck, that boat ain't rowing quite the way he wanted. They're 6-5. They're bowl eligible. But is that really what their expectation was at the beginning of the year? I don't think so. Iowa quietly having not the season they've had the last couple of years, but they, and quite honestly, they just snuck by Michigan State, who is not very good at all. They're only 3-8 on the year. And how about the luster on Matt Rule? Matt Rule is one of those guys that was in the running, or at least in the conversation, the media will tell you, for the Penn State job, yet he gets throttled by Penn State with their intern coach, Terry Smith. I believe it's Terry Smith. And 37-10. And they got whooped up in the first half. It was 23-3. And, 14-7. Second half, I could just guess they just got whooped up all the way around. And Washington took care of UCLA pretty well. So now I believe the final game of the year for Washington is a Washington-Oregon game, and that game is in Spokane. But as I said, we'll talk about that stuff later in the week. So that's a wrap for Monday Morning Quarterback College Edition. America, land of the free because of the brave. Stay focused, America. Billy Bob, peace out.